What's going on, folks? It's Moji, the King of the North. It's Mo Genie, baby. And I'm here with a very special guest. Honored to have one of my favorite Game of Thrones YouTubers, the main man himself, Charlie in Westeros. Charlie, talk to the people.
Howdy, folks. Mo, thank you for having me. I didn't know you're the King of the North, but hey, I'm sporting your sigil right here, so I thought it was an appropriate thing to do for this video. And yeah, got my Jon Snow knows nothing mug too, so I'm all ready to discuss predictions and all that good stuff. I think I hear a bit of an echo. Is that just me, or?
It could be, but live stream usually does that in the beginning.
Gotcha. No worries. Anyway, yeah, you can also check me out on Charlie in Westeros for those of you who don't know who I am. And yeah, let's talk about Game of Thrones Season 7. I think there's a lot to discuss, even though we're only talking about a specific amount of stuff. So I'll let you take it away, Mo, and I'll follow suit. Thanks for having me, by the way.
No problem. I will link Charlie's channel in the description. Make sure you guys check him out. One of the best in the business. Charlie, we're doing Season 7 predictions, man. I mean, so many things have been coming out on Watchers of the Wall recently. What do you think about the Gendry news, man?
That stuff really took me by surprise, in a way. I mean, where do I begin? I always figured Gendry had to come back at some point in the show. For a time, I kind of tiptoed around the idea that maybe Cersei would use him. Kind of crazy, I know. But obviously that doesn't make too much sense because I think he'd be better off dead than alive for her sake. I'm actually kind of surprised that we saw, I mean, for those of you who didn't see the clip, I don't know if you want to fill them in, Mo, or I could just start talking about it.
Yeah, go ahead. Let them know.
Okay, so spoiler warning for those of you who don't or haven't seen the clip or don't want to see it. Basically what happens is there's a little, little clip that was released online where we have Gendry, Davos, and Tyrion all together in a scene. There's two guards, and there's also a boat. I don't know if that's the boat that Gendry was rowing for the past 3 or 4 seasons, but there's a boat there, and Gendry's next to it. And basically, it looks like there's a discussion happening or a heated argument between Davos and the guards. And then Gendry basically just pulls out what looked like a warhammer, I think, or an axe. I think it's a hammer, though. Pulls out a hammer and then just attacks the two guards, and then they go down. And that's basically what we get from the clip. Did I miss anything there?
Yeah, it's pretty much self-explanatory. A lot of you should have seen it by now. It's ridiculous. Gendry's been gone for like 4 seasons, folks. And for them to just splash him back in right now, there has to be a major, major reason. Lots of folks think it's because of him being a smith, doing the Valyrian steel, yada, yada, yada. That theory is so old now, I don't even consider it at all. I think it's completely different. I think he joined up with sellswords. I think he's been with sellswords, and they're giving the sellsword stories, Golden Company, that kind of stuff to Gendry. What are you thinking, Charlie?
So if I understand correctly, you think he's kind of filling in for the fake Aegon character possibly this season?
Yes, people are stealing the fake Aegon story. Dany's getting a piece. Gendry's getting a piece. God knows who else is getting a piece because they can't introduce Aegon anymore, so why not? Why would you waste a good story like the Aegon plot?
No, that is true. That is true. And I think you have a point there. I think a lot of people in my comments have asked me, or a few people actually have asked if they think Gendry will kind of act as a fill-in for Aegon next season. And it's definitely something I could see, being done. I don't know if they would incorporate the Aegon story quite as completely as they did in the books, obviously, for, time constraint reasons. My only question is that if they are including the Aegon story, we have to talk about, the degree to which it's being incorporated in the show. Is Gendry kind of playing a 3rd or 4th faction even in this struggle for the Iron Throne, or is he a tool maybe to either Jon or Daenerys or both of them? We're talking about that show clip that we saw, or that leak. I thought it was interesting that we see Davos and Tyrion together. That kind of implies either that Jon and Daenerys have, at this point in the next season, when that clip was being filmed, they've teamed up maybe. Perhaps Tyrion switched sides to Jon. Maybe there's a conflict between Jon and Daenerys. You never discount that, especially if Jon finds out his parentage, and especially if that kind of acts as a something that pisses Daenerys off, and she doesn't really want to have another rival claim into the throne, or that whole argument as to whether or not Daenerys kind of becomes the Mad Queen or the new Mad Queen in the series. So there's a lot of ifs and possibilities there. Personally, I think that train of thought is a little too unlikely, just because, again, time constraints for the show. My hunch is that Jon and Daenerys either, maybe they reach some kind of alliance or truce or some form of decision to possibly work together against Cersei, and maybe they went out and looked for Gendry to act as either a symbolic ruler to Storm's End, or as someone to gain some forces or gain some loyal men from the Stormlands, because of course right now, without an heir, without a legitimate Baratheon, as far as we know, or as far as the people in Westeros know, the Stormlands kind of go into the Lannister camp, of Cersei Lannister camp. So I don't know. That's kind of my hunch. I also made a video talking about how I think, bastards and illegitimate children of royals or nobles of Westeros wouldn't or would be able to inherit lands and titles and such next season or by the end of the series as a whole. So I definitely think Gendry does have at least some kind of symbolic importance to the different factions of Westeros. So again, at the very least, I think he's being used, I don't want to say as a pawn necessarily, because I think he's too much of a strong or tough character to want to be used or to let himself necessarily be used anymore. But perhaps willingly he's aligned himself with one of the main faction's causes. So I think that's kind of what we can predict with Gendry in terms of that scene that we saw him in. Sorry, I kind of went on a long diatribe there. What do you think, Mo? I want to hear your thoughts.
No, you're the guest here, man. I'm just here to chill. Please bring out all your thoughts, because me personally, to bring back Gendry again, as I've stated, after however many seasons, he's a major plot for next season. He's a major pawn. Is he a pawn for Jon, or is he a pawn for Dany? This is what we got to figure out. The leaks show Tyrion, Davos, and Jon together. So is that in King's Landing? The Warhammer, him and the Warhammer. We'll talk about that in a sec, but those were gold cloaks that he hit with the Warhammer. So they're in King's Landing. What is all this for? This is crazy, because we thought Dany was going to be landing in Dragonstone. That's the majority of the leaks say she's in Dragonstone. The filming leaks show what they used in Dragonstone when Stannis was there. So what are they doing in King's Landing? This is crazy, Charlie.
I didn't think about that. You think they're being filmed in King's Landing then for that specific scene?
For sure. Those are gold cloaks that he hit over the head with the Warhammer.
That's true. That is true.
Not Baratheon soldiers. No.
I guess my implication was that, is it possible that gold cloaks could be found outside of King's Landing? You know what I mean? I mean, obviously it stands to reason they should be in King's Landing, but I mean, if they're gold cloaks, could they not be found elsewhere in Westeros potentially? Granted, it does look kind of cold where they were located because of the long, heavy cloaks they were wearing. And normally I would have assumed that was the north, but of course winter is, assumedly come. So you have a good point there.
I mean, the gold cloaks are the city guard. What would the city guard be doing outside of King's Landing? The last time we ever saw gold cloaks outside of King's Landing is when they chased after Yoren with the warrant. Funny enough, when Gendry was with them.
Very true. That's very true. Well, Queen Cersei's in power, so I wouldn't put anything past her. But you're probably right about that. I actually didn't really notice or look too closely to see if they were gold cloaks or not. But I mean, if you say they're gold cloaks, then you're probably right that they are in King's Landing at this point. And again, that's a great question. I mean, why is Jon, Davos, and Tyrion in King's Landing? I mean, what do they stand to gain by being there? Isn't that kind of the city of the Mad Queen? Unless, of course, Cersei's withdrawn and gone somewhere else. I don't know. Too many questions, man. There's so many things I've not really considered for that specific scene.
The thing about spoilers is, and it just, you got to wrap your head around it. I like spoilers, but this type of spoiler just makes you crave for the season. It's like, oh my God, a Warhammer? Okay, let's jump into the Warhammer. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah. It has to be King's Landing, because Robert's Warhammer would obviously be in King's Landing. I'm going to give a shout out to Tony Teflon in his video. He said the Warhammer's in King's Landing. It's in Robert's old chambers or whatever. I don't think it's in Storm's End. I think he did take the Warhammer to King's Landing. What do you think about this, Charlie?
Well, that's another question. I mean, because obviously we have no confirmation that it is indeed King Robert's Warhammer. I think it's, we could also possibly assume that Gendry could forge another Warhammer. That said, I do like the image of, the son kind of taking up the weapons of the father in this case. So I like that possibility probably more than him forging one. But again, it's just something that we have to consider in this eventuality. Assuming it is Robert's warhammer, I mean, you have to wonder how Gendry got a hold of it, for one thing.
That's the big question. How did he get it? I mean, like, Robert's, his weapons, first we know Robert's main weapons are, number one, his antler helm. Renly had the same antler helm in the books because that's a major thing about Robert's weaponry. And then the warhammer, it's like Rhaegar's armor. This is major stuff.
Yeah, definitely is. It definitely is. See, this is the thing with these leaks. They give a lot of information, but they also leave so many important questions to be asked. And again, this is something that the show could really easily skip over in terms of explaining in great depth or in any form of any significant detail as to how they got a hold of the warhammer. I mean, 7 episodes is not a lot of time when you think about it, especially with everything that's going on. So is it something that they're going to really bother addressing in any detail? Are they really going to, bother saying, oh, this is the warhammer Gendry received from his father, or took from his father's chambers or wherever? Could it also be that? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, some people in the chat are saying he forged it himself brand new.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering as well. It's a possibility we have to consider, like I said.
Absolutely incredible. This spoiler territory, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It'll make your head spin, but it's great.
I had a question for you. Do you think there's a chance or a possibility that warhammer is made of Valyrian steel? I know it's kind of a stretch, and I know in the book series there's only like 3 Valyrian weaponsmiths that can reforge Valyrian steel, and we've seen in the show in season 4 at the beginning, I believe. So is there a possibility that one of the main characters like Daenerys or Jon got a hold of these I guess epic blacksmiths and had some of the Valyrian blades reforged into a hammer for Gendry?
If I'm not mistaken,
or if Gendry himself reforged it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's cool. If I'm not mistaken, I think Robert's warhammer was Valyrian steel. So if he took Robert's one and didn't reforge a brand new one, Robert's is definitely Valyrian steel, 100%.
If it's Valyrian steel, then yeah, then I think it would make sense for Gendry to take it. Is it? But you said it's definitely his hammer is definitely Valyrian steel, or is that unconfirmed? Because I thought
the one he used to kill Rhaegar on the Trident was Valyrian steel. I think that's why it cut through Rhaegar's breastplate so easily.
Okay. Wait, was that? So it's going to sound really stupid to me because it's been a while since I read the books. But was that canon, or is that something we reasonably assume from the fact that he's able to cut through his steel?
I definitely remember reading that in the book, and Eli Gormit on the chat just said yes, Robert's warhammer was Valyrian steel.
Got it. Okay, well then there you go. I'll take that as enough proof then. If it is Valyrian steel, then I think it personally makes sense that Gendry somehow got a hold of his father's then. In this situation, anyway.
That's amazing, because I want to know, number one, where he got it. Was it Storm's End or was it King's Landing? And then how he got it, because you would think, you remember how easily the cat's paw got the Valyrian steel dagger that they tried to kill Bran with in season 1?
Yeah.
That was Robert's as well.
You're right. That was. Well, wasn't it Tyrion's?
No, that was the lie. The lie was it was.
Then it was Tyrion's, and it was originally Robert's. Who Joffrey stole it. Got it. Okay. Because I thought Joffrey stole it from Tyrion.
In the books, Joffrey stole it from the armory that they had when they were coming to Winterfell.
Okay.
On the show, it was implied it was just a cat's paw.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, these are important questions to ask. I think I read in the comments here in the video that somebody, who was it, who said, Eric Flores says the Warhammer will prove that Gendry is Robert's son. That is very true. I think, if anything, it's his appearance that will especially act as the proof to demonstrate that Gendry is Robert's son. I mean, that was the one thing that that sparked Ned's Ned's reaction in season 1 when he saw Gendry for the first time. He kind of just realized that was Robert Baratheon's bastard, as he said. So.
Yeah, it's amazing his thoughts in the book when you're reading the chapter, because he didn't imply it until they walked out of the armory. But when Jory or whoever was with him, when he went to the armor, they were like, so what was the point of coming here? And then in his head, in his monologue, Ned's like, oh, that's Robert's bastard, and Jon Arryn figured it out. You know, and then Ned figures out that that's why Jon Arryn got poisoned, and yada 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 yada.
Right.
That's
Man,
amazing.
Yeah, with the I mean, the thing is, again, with the show, you know, it's really a question of what are they going to include and what are they not going to include. There are a lot of things, you know, that we kind of know from the books, or that are mentioned in the books, that we can reasonably assume or you know, foresee that they're not really going to address in any great detail. The character of Fagon, obviously, as the character himself, is not going to be in the show. He might make an appearance in the form of Gendry, or in the form of, you know, maybe Daenerys in certain plot devices or plot ways or plot lines. But for the most part, you know, these major things are Ariane Martell, another character we're not going to see at all in the show, assumedly. You know, I think there's so many things that we would love to see in this show that we're just not going to get to. However, you know, the point of this video is that we're going to be discussing Brans Visions and the Tourney of Harrenhall. And I think, as far as we the book readers know, the Tourney of Harrenhall is one of the few remaining things that we can at least reasonably suspect or expect to happen in the show. I mean, it's not guaranteed it's going to happen, but I think it's one of those few important events that might have a strong chance of being brought up in the show.
Yeah, the thing about, so let's get into Brand's visions of what we're assuming. Number one being the Tourney of Harrenhall.
Hello.
They pretty much have an awesome, you know, kind of like a tutorial syllabus to wrap up everything with the Tower of Joy visions and all that with Bran. Because they got to tell us Rhaegar's story. The whole point of next season, and majority of those visions have to be Rhaegar Targaryen. We saw the leaks already of Devon Oliver, where people assumed he would be cast as Rhaegar. Tell me, Charlie, do you believe Rhaegar will be a major focal point for next season?
Yes and no. Again, I think we can find out a lot about, you know, the story and the things involving Rhaegar without actually having to see Rhaegar himself. I think it would be cool to see him, and I think the Tourney of Harrenhal, if we get the Tourney of Harrenhal, kind of will act as a way to show that Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen were in fact in love, and there wasn't, you know, this wasn't a case of rape or abduction as the show or the books originally leads us to believe, anyway. So in that context, I could see, I think Rhaegar does have a strong chance of being included, and I think within that context, we should see Rhaegar. In terms of him, you know, fighting Robert Baratheon in any peripheral sense, I don't think they're going to show much of Rhaegar, just because it's not necessarily important to the plot of the Song of Ice and Fire necessarily. It's more so just to drive the fact home that Rhaegar and Lyanna, you know, were in love. And possibly, again, that maybe their relationship was consummated by a marriage. Not as essential, because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think there will be any great issue with illegitimates and bastards inheriting like titles and lands in Westeros. But I think it could act as a possible important talking point, especially when it comes to legitimizing their relationship in some sense.
Absolutely. And like they jumped to the Tower of Joy last season as the major vision for Bran last season. You have to basically explain to the audience what the point of the Tower of Joy was, because if you're a book reader, you knew exactly what this was, but a show watcher had no clue. My little brother never read the books, but he loves the show, and he was asking me questions every second, like, is that a young Ned Stark? Who is that in the bed? Is that Jon's mother? Yada, yada, yada. Like, you've got to break this down for the audience.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. And that's something I'd never actually considered, because there is so much we as book readers assume and know about the Tower of Joy and events surrounding it. But people who just watch the show see this tower and there's this woman in bed dying, giving birth. So you're absolutely right. And again, that ties up to Rhaegar and Lyanna's, the nature of Rhaegar and Lyanna's relationship. And I think, you know, Tourney at Harrenhal is very, very important to demonstrate how it first started, or what exactly happened at the tourney that led them to be together. And again, it's something that in the books we hear about. We don't really know why Rhaegar chose to give the rose to Lyanna. We don't know why he crowned her the Queen of Love and Beauty, if that was the title. Yeah, that was the title, Queen of Love and Beauty, I think. We don't really know why, like, what his motivations were. I have a few theories as to why that happened, and we can discuss it if you like. But you know, these are questions that the show's going to have to address if they want to explain why Rhaegar and Lyanna had a loving relationship.
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about it if you want. I mean, the major theory on that is, you know, they fell in love because Rhaegar suspected she was the Knight of the Laughing Tree.
Yeah, effectively so. I think, and in the show, it's kind of been hinted at already. I mean, we see that last season with Lyanna marching into Winterfell on a horse. I think that kind of cued up or teased the fact that the Knight of the Laughing Tree will make an appearance, hopefully, next season in, I'm assuming, one of Bran's visions. And if they do go that way, then I think it's important to kind of show that Rhaegar fell for her because of her strength of her power, not necessarily because he thought she was lovely or beautiful, although probably that played a part in it. But I think it has more so to do with the fact that she was a strong and powerful character, kind of like Arya. I mean, we get hints of Lyanna in Arya in the show and in the books. So I think hopefully they're going to show that side of Lyanna next season.
Absolutely. So go ahead, Charlie.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I think another point to ask is what they are, assuming they include the assuming they include the Tourney at Harrenhal. I think it's important to ask what they will exclude from that scene, you know? Because, of course, the whole thing with, what's his name? Howland Reed, you know, he's such an integral part as to why Lyanna put on the armor of the Laughing Knight, and then she went and competed against the knights whose squires were picking on Howland. Again, these are things I don't know if they will include them. I think they're important. It's important to include the fact that Howland is an active witness to all these events going on. And I think he will probably play a role next season in testifying to Jon Snow's true parentage and to the nature of Lyanna and Rhaegar's relationship. Because I mean, you know, Bran can see all these things in visions, but they're all at the end of the day, they're just visions. They're not. There's no concrete evidence that Jon is Lyanna and Rhaegar's son, and etc. You need kind of firsthand testimony outside of Bran, I would assume anyway. So, you know, I think they might show TLDR here. I think they might show Howland being at the Tourney at Harrenhal. I don't know if they're going to include the whole plotline of him being bullied and then Lyanna putting on the armor, you know, going off to fight those knights. I think they're probably just going to show, maybe, and here's a theory, maybe they'll just show Lyanna being banned from going to the tourney because she's a woman and not being allowed to compete, but, you know, her being the strong, tough character, kind of like Arya, she'll put on that armor and just go out there and fight those battles and, you know, go pretty far.
Totally. And I'm under this theory that there's a major artifact that either Howland Reed has or Ned Stark's buried in the crypts of Winterfell that confirmed Jon's heritage. You can't just bring Bran to a table with high lords of Westeros and say, yeah, I saw this in a dream. This happened in a dream. No, there has to be a full-on, maybe even a maester's documentation signed.
Yeah, like a parchment or something. I could agree there.
Yeah, Rhaegar's harp is the major theory. We saw Dawn, Arthur Dayne's sword with Ned in the tower on the show, but I don't know how that would prove that that's, you know, Jon's Rhaegar's son with that. But
well, I think there could be I think it's a combination of things that could, you know, demonstrate Rhaegar as Jon Snow's true parentage, or at least that Jon could be a Targaryen descendant or the product of a Targaryen union with maybe like a non-Targaryen, obviously. You bring up the idea of the harp, a maester's parchment. Another thing they could do is they could show Jon Snow eventually being able to mount and fly a dragon. I mean, it would make sense if he's able to fly Rhaegal, given the name of the dragon. I think that would be a very telling way, at least in the show, to demonstrate that Jon Snow has some Targaryen in him, that he's able to just climb on a dragon and fly it. Obviously, you know, it seems like non-Targaryens are also able to get close to dragons, like we saw with Tyrion, assuming he's a non-Targaryen, that is. But I think, you know, Jon Snow being able to actually go up and riding a dragon will probably help his case to some degree, I would think. We kind of see that in The Princess and the Queen, that short novella story where they're kind of looking for Targaryen illegitimate children to act as, you know, dragon seeds to ride the other dragons that are around Dragonstone. And although we could debate the idea that you don't have to be a Targaryen to ride dragons, at least in terms of the show, I think it's an important quality to probably have to some degree. But that's just my hunch here.
I think they included Tyrion touching Rhaegar and Viserion last season for a reason, and that might be it, showing that somebody who has the right blood, should we say, can connect with these dragons.
So are you, if I understand correctly, do you think Tyrion is the product of a Targaryen, perhaps?
For the longest time, I thought it was the twins. I thought it was Jaime and Cersei. But after what I saw on the show, I think it's Tyrion now.
Yeah, yeah. When I first started YouTubing, there was a girl, her name was Lady Kayla. I don't know if she still makes videos, but she made a video about Tyrion being a Targaryen. This is like going back a long while, like season 3. And it was a theory that always kind of struck with me, but I never really paid much attention to it until, like you said, this past season when I started thinking, well, maybe there's a possibility there. Honestly, a lot of times with these theories, it's just the fact that I feel like there's such little time left in the show to really go into them in such great depth and really, you know, have these other Targaryens or other, you know, side stories be covered in the show, just because, again, timing. You know, and I think next season, at least not season 7, but season 8 is going to be a major, the majority of that 6-episode season is going to focus on the conflict with the White Walkers, I would assume. So I think it would be cool if Tyrion was included in as a Targaryen. And it would kind of fit that whole theme of, you know, 3 heads of the dragon, Tyrion, Jon, and Daenerys flying them. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, you know?
Yeah, and this is why GRM's got to finish this story soon, because, I mean, you're talking about that theory from like 3-4 years ago, and that's many more years before that these theories have been out, and it's just got to be concluded. I mean, it's just getting crazy now.
They really do. They really do. Hey, I had a question for you. Because it doesn't really cover Gendry or the Tower of Joy or the Tourney of Harrenhall. But what do you think is going to happen with Dorne next season? Because it's kind of a contentious topic. I don't mean to go off topic, but it's a question I wanted to ask you.
No, going off topic is one of my favorite things. So, Dorne.
Yeah, I mean, do you think? Go ahead. Sorry.
Dorne was royally screwed, and I think there was no coming back from it. That's why they killed. What's his name? It's slipping my mind right now.
Oh, Doran. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they killed Arya Hota. They killed Doran, and you're making the Sand Snakes the rulers. This was just a quick way to axe it. The only way to bring that back, in my opinion, to give it any sort of credence or credit, is if they introduce something crazy like Darkstar, you know, or something amazing from like that. The Martell, like bringing back the Fagon story. This is what I'm talking about. Hatching him getting revenge. Doran Martell wanted revenge for Elia. That's the only way to salvage Dorne, in my opinion.
What if they, because in the books we have the character of Alaras or Cirilla Sand. Do you think maybe the appearance of a likable Sand Snake could potentially save Dorne? Especially if she were to inherit the land?
Definitely. If it was a really awesome Sand Snake. The thing is, the actresses that they used were supposedly not that bad. They were good English actresses, but they just didn't give them the lines. They didn't, you know, if they...
Agreed.
You know.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I don't think they were bad actresses. I just think there was something a bit off with the plot. And, you know, there's, at the end of the day, if there's something that's a little strange and, you know, honestly, I think partially because it diverged so much from the books, it does make a lot of us book readers, you know, honestly squirm just a little bit. Obviously, that's not the only case, because I think a lot of non-book readers were kind of iffy about Dorne. But it doesn't really help, you know, when you get this really strange diversion and these characters that are played up to be so strong in the books, like Doran with his master plot being killed like as though it was nothing. And unfortunately, I think it's a result of speeding up plots and, you know, trying to cut corners so they can wrap up the show faster.
They're completely cutting corners. And, I mean, you got to give them credit where it's due. They knocked it out of the park with Battle of the Bastards and Winds of Winter. The Hodor episode, I mean, that was just a masterpiece episode. I mean, this is the great things that they do, you know. I wish there was a Hodor episode every episode, but they can't do that, you know.
Unfortunately. Although there were a lot of great episodes last season. I got to give it to them. With all the deaths especially going down.
Yeah. And so back to the visions.
Yeah, let's talk about the visions.
Let's talk about the main points of Tourney of Harrenhal that people just don't know about. We're kind of short on time. We got about 20 minutes or so. Let's break this down. Benjen Stark became a member of the Night's Watch at the Tourney of Harrenhall. Rhaegar and Lyanna hooked up at the Tourney of Harrenhall. Something happened with Ashara Dane at the Tourney of Harrenhall with Barristan and Selmy. Obviously, Howland Reed getting bullied by the squires. I don't think any of that stuff's going to happen on the TV show. I think they're going to do a bare bones version of the Tourney of Harrenhall with Rhaegar unseating Jaime Lannister, unseating Barristan and Selmy, unseating all the bosses in Westeros, and then hooking up with Lyanna in like a midnight tryst type of deal.
Right.
Charlie.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Obviously, they're not going to include a lot of the peripheral storylines again. Although I don't think Benjen joined the Night's Watch at the tourney. I think he was a bit after that because he was called the Pup, if I recall, at the tourney. He was a little bit too young. But
yeah,
either way,
he was just talking to a man of the Night's Watch. I correct myself. Yeah.
Right. But no, I do think we're gonna get some clips of the young Starks. I think / hope we get to see Lord Dane, not Eddard Dane. What's his name? Oh my God. What's not Ashara, her brother.
Arthur Dane.
Arthur Dane. There we go. Wow, brain fart. I hope we get to see Arthur Dane. Show off a little bit more of his skills in battle. Obviously we have to see Rhaegar. Small details like that, little nuggets of side information would be cool to see. The Ashara Dane plot, I don't think they're going to have that at all, unfortunately, which is too bad because the Danes are such a cool house, in my opinion, in the books. Again, it really comes down to just nailing the point that Rhaegar and Lyanna fell in love at the tourney. I'm hoping we get to see Howland Reed and that whole side story, but again, I don't think that's something that we will see in the vision. Do you also think they're going to have more than one vision, or do you think they're just going to have like one Tourney of Harrenhal vision or two Tourney of Harrenhal visions, and that's it for Brans Visions this season?
The thing is, Dan and Dave have already talked about not wanting to use visions as a crutch. So if you saw any of after the episodes last season, they talked about not wanting to do that too much because they think it's a crutch for story writing. And like a lot of people didn't like that because it's like, we need those visions. Those give us the history and lore on the show, that make everything make sense. So, maybe they'll stick to their guns. Maybe they won't. I just think that if you're going to do the Tower of Joy, you have to tell the audience how everyone got to the Tower of Joy.
Right. Well, and that's, you bring up a good point. I think attached to the Tower of Joy and the Tourney at Harrenhal kind of brings up Robert's Rebellion. We know sort of what sparked it, but I mean, they didn't really, go into much depth. So hopefully they're going to address the whole abduction of Lyanna, which allegedly sparked the rebellion by Robert Baratheon and, the other houses. So assumedly, we're also going to see the Mad King Aerys Targaryen, I would think, in a way to explain what's been going on there. I also wonder, though, and again, you mentioned the show watchers don't want to use visions as a crutch to make the story go further or to move the story along. But do you think, at least, even if it's not in a vision or in one of Bran's visions, do you think there's a possibility that they're going to address maybe that Rhaegar Targaryen was aware of the looming threat of the White Walkers, and maybe through his visions he was able to see that the child born to him and Lyanna, one of the knights of that tourney, was going to save the world, so to speak. Sounds kind of cheesy when I put it that way, but do you think prophecy, at least visions within the Targaryen family, is going to be brought up in the show?
I totally hope so, and I think the best way to do it is the way that how they showed us Cersei's prophecy with Maggie the Frog, do a flashback like that, where in the books it tells us that Rhaegar was very book smart, very educated, not really into fighting, and one day he went to some sort of alchemist or some sort of magician, and that magician or whatever told him that you are going to produce Azor Ahai. I would love to see some sort of Woods Witch, Maggie the Frog situation with Rhaegar. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Agree. That's actually a really, really good way to present that. I think you've hit the nail on the head there with that idea. Well, yeah. No, that's a good point. I had a question. I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, I agree with you on that. I think answering, the whole idea of the White Walkers being a threat that's been foretold for a while could very well be solved via Maggie the Frog or another character with a vision or with powers talking to Rhaegar or any other character for that matter. Should we enter Q&A or should we keep this going?
Let's just do the last bit, which is Bran himself. Let's just quickly give our prediction on what we think is happening with Bran. The question is, do you think Bran will make it to Winterfell next season? If so, how?
So do you want me to answer that question first, or did you want to talk about your thoughts?
No, you answer it first.
Alrighty. Well, first of all, I do think Bran's going to get to Winterfell. I think he's an important character to kind of bring to light at least part of the situation with Rhaegar and Lyanna, or the Tower of Joy to some degree. Whether he meets with Jon or not is a good question. I originally assumed that he would meet Jon, and that would kind of spark Jon's own desire to find out about his true parentage, and that would lead to Jon visiting Howland Reed and the Marsh and the Crannogman rather, and then that would kind of push that whole storyline for a time and allow us to, or at least allow Jon and Daenerys not to meet right away. However, we could also just have Jon sending or asking Bran to bring proof, and maybe Bran himself will go to the Crannogman and seek out Howland Reed. I do think Howland Reed is an important character to include next season as a witness at the very least, just because, and especially after you mentioned those visions, I think it's important to have real life testimonial from characters, and even characters like Littlefinger. I mean, he was present at the tourney. I mean, he could potentially say his thoughts on what went on between Rhaegar and Lyanna. But as your question said, I'm sorry, I kind of diverted there. I think that Bran will first reach the Men of the Night's Watch. That's first off. I think he's going to probably meet Dolorous Ed, I'm assuming, or one of the other men. Hopefully they would. I mean, they are obviously friends with Jon for the most part, the ones that are still there. I'm assuming they would send him off to Winterfell, by carriage or whatever, and I don't think it's going to be too difficult to get him there once Bran has met with the Men of the Night's Watch. So that's my hunch with that. It's just what happens afterwards. Does Bran remain at Winterfell? Does he go looking for Howland Reed? Does he go somewhere else? Obviously, Bran knows that the White Walkers are coming, so I don't know about him, but if I were in issues, I would go as far south as I possibly could. That's just my hunch, though. What do you think? Yeah,
well, I've already did a semi-theory on Bran's frost scale. I call it frost scale. It's the mark the Night's King left on him. On his arm. It's like GPS. I call it frost scale. A little diversion of grayscale. It doesn't rot the hand, but it basically has all magical abilities that the Night's King can use. Bran's a green seer. That mark on Bran is going to be a major thing for next season, so look out for that. And so basically they're running. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to clarify something. So if I understand correctly, you think that the mark on Bran will allow the White Walkers and the Night's King to cross the wall because it kind of disables that protective spell around it?
No, totally not. Totally not. Oh. I think no. I just think he can just follow Bran and basically just suck some sort of soul out of Bran with that mark somehow. Like he gets Bran's visions while Bran's using the werewood visions. Got it. You can basically see what Bran can see because of that mark.
That's kind of like Harry Potter in a way when you think about it. Voldemort and Harry, they're connected and they can see what each other sees. I like that idea.
Exact, just like that. That's what the Night's King is going to do.
That's awesome.
And
sorry, go ahead.
The way in my How the Night's King Will Win video, basically it's very simple. I said that the way the Night's King punched the ground, and like a lot of people have talked about this already, but the way he punched the ground and cracked the cave open that the Blood Raven was in, that's what he's going to do to the wall. He's going to crack a hole big enough to let his whites go through. The whole wall's not going to fall. It's not going to be like Joramon's horn where the whole wall falls. No, it's just a hole so they can cross. And Bran and Benjen are going to be running away from this and hide at Castle Black, and then they're all going to go to Winterfell, in my opinion.
Wow, I love that. You really thought this out, actually, too. So that's the thing with me. I make videos, but honestly, I don't really come up with great ideas at all. That's kind of why I steer away from making too bold predictions usually, just because I don't think they're nearly as well thought out as, other people like you, for example. So my hat's off to you. I never even considered that.
Oh,
but I think you're onto something. I do think that, I think that the Night's King once, I mean, we kind of got not a hint of that, but I mean, we kind of see the Night's King able to overpower Hardhome. Granted, it's not the wall that separates the North and the South, but I think even through sheer force or power, they're going to be able to overcome the wall that separates the North, the far North, from Westeros itself. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, so that's what we believe is going to happen with Bran. Let me take a couple questions from you guys. We're getting near that time. Okay. Samid Sand asks, do you think we'll get Howland in the present time next season, Charlie?
Say it again?
Question. Do you think we will get Howland Reed next season?
Well, if I haven't made it clear so far, I really, if we don't get him, I'll be very disappointed. I think he's an essential character that we should have next season. So I'll say yes, just because it seems like too much of an important character not to include in the show.
I stuck to my guns last season about Lady Stoneheart showing up, and I had egg all over my face at the end of the season. D&D do not like to bring these characters out that have a lot of mysticism and magic behind them. So I'm going to say no. I really don't be showing up next season.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll have to see. I'm still holding out hope for him just because we saw Benjen on an undead Benjen on the undead horse. So
yeah, I mean, I my heart says yes, but my brain says no because how they burned me with Lady Stoneheart, dude.
Well, I can feel you on the Lady Stoneheart stuff. I was holding out hope for 1 or 2 seasons at most, and then I just kind of gave up because I couldn't put my heart out there for that character just because it seemed too good to be true. But I think Howland still stands some slimmer of hope when it comes to seeing him. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Next question from Prodigal7. Do you think Dawn will be Lightbringer?
Well, we did sort of see Dawn, we did sort of see Dawn in the flashback to the Tower of Joy. Although it was very, very, it was almost like an Easter egg, if anything. So my hunch is no. I think it's, I made a theory in my Tower of Joy video like last year, or close to last year anyway, that I really think that in a way Jon himself is Lightbringer. He is, I made this huge kind of, I guess like a metaphor or like a symbolic similarity to the story of Lightbringer. Rhaegar, I kind of made it seem, well, I basically said that Rhaegar was Azor Ahai plunging his sword, his phallus, for lack of better words, into Nissa, being Lyanna, and Jon Snow killed his mother by being born, or she died by birth. And when the sword was removed, Jon Snow was removed in that, if that makes any sense, the symbolic association there. So I think Jon Snow himself is Lightbringer. He is the sword that will, bring the world into brightness. And I think that Rhaegar technically was the prince that was promised by, creating Lightbringer. If that makes any sense at all. That's my crackpot theory anyway for that one. Otherwise, if you're talking about an actual sword called Lightbringer or Dawn literally being Lightbringer, I don't think so. Although it would be cool if we did have that, but I don't think so.
I like that theory. I like that one a lot. I'm gonna say what I've been thinking about for a couple months now. I'm really mad I haven't dropped a video on this, but I'm gonna do it as soon as I'm done with the ones I have lined up now. Charlie knows how hard it is to put your ideas to video when you have so many ideas.
Amen to that.
I actually believe the Tarly ancestral sword Heartsbane is Lightbringer Prodigal 7. I believe the reason it's called Heartsbane is because it's the bane.
Hello.
What it's all about. They introduced it on the show for a reason, and Sam's obviously not the one gonna wield it. Heartsbane is Lightbringer. I originally thought it was Dawn, but not anymore. Let's go to the next question.
Sorry, I lost you a bit at the end there.
Oh, sorry. I said that the name Heartsbane is the major clue I think George R. R. Martin left us for Lightbringer, because, you know, you plunge the sword into Nisa Nisa and it tempers the blade and made it Lightbringer. So, you know, that's why I'm thinking Heartsbane.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting theory. Do you think so? You don't think what's his name, Sam, is going to wield Heartsbane then?
No, absolutely not. I think he's just gonna pass it on to whoever, whether that's John or whether that's Danny. He's just the middleman in this whole operation.
Got it. Cool theory.
Yeah, thanks. The next question was from Aline Mendoza. Will we get an Arya and John reunion or Gendry and Arya reunion next season, Charlie?
Gendry Arya reunion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hope
Arya,
so. Yeah.
John.
John Arya?
Yeah.
I think there's a better chance of. See, I made a video talking about that. I think Arya and Gendry would have a reunion, and Sansa actually would have a reunion in the Riverlands. But after seeing that video of Tyrion, Davos, and John, I'm starting to doubt that now. I'm thinking that if anyone has a chance of seeing Arya, it would probably be John over Gendry, unless of course Arya accompanies John first to meet with Gendry. Either way, my hunch is going to go with John Arya more likely than Gendry Arya at this point.
Yeah, in the leaks, we actually saw Arya wearing kind of Stark Lordish clothes, Winterfell clothing. So.
Oh, really? I didn't see those leaks.
Yeah, she looks just like what Lyanna Mormont was wearing last season, so it's kind of Northern Lord clothing.
Okay.
So the only reason she would be wearing that, in my opinion, is she made it back to Winterfell. So I definitely believe that's possible. As far as John and Arya, as far as Gendry Arya, that one I don't think so, because we didn't see Arya with the new leaks with John in wherever they are in King's Landing, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned those leaks. I actually did not know about that. Another I guess reunion I'm kind of hoping for is maybe get Arya reunited with Nymeria. I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah,
the Nymeria story. I mean, that's another thing that's been thrown to the wind by D&D, but I mean, why not? I mean, why not? Just give us some more fanfare, D&D. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, and also Nymeria is kind of a character that hasn't had its own plot resolved. I mean, Arya chased off Nymeria back in season 1. We just haven't seen the direwolf since, so it would be nice to get some closure there.
Absolutely. I think we got like 1 or 2 more questions. Paul Gorman asks, will the wall finally come down season 7?
Oh, yeah. Well, if it doesn't come down, there'll be a huge hole in it, as you say, and there are going to be White Walkers going through. I think by the end of the 7th season, we're going to have either White Walkers going through it, either the wall coming down. Something's going to happen to the wall, and it's not going to be able to defend Westeros against the threat of the White Walkers anymore.
Yeah, Paul, I don't know if you saw my most recent video. I just did it about 4 days ago. Will the wall fall next season? Just check that out. Explains it all down to you. And we just gave you a little tidbit about, the whole punching the hole by the Night's King and all that.
I'll have to check that video out now.
Yeah, please check it out, Troy. I try to work hard on my theories, you know what I mean? But, it's all about what people think in the end, if they like it or not. So check it out, guys. All right. Charlie, if you have anything else, I think we are good, boss.
Alrighty, well, if that's it, Mo, thank you so much for having me. This is something I really miss, honestly, about doing these videos. I haven't had a discussion in a while with anyone on YouTube, other than our discussions with the Small Council, which was back when season 6 was on. So I kind of miss that interactiveness on YouTube. It's something that's, I don't know, I think that's sorely missing from the online GOT community, especially on YouTube. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. We will try to do this as soon as possible again, whether on my channel or Charlie's. We love this stuff. Absolutely glad to have you, man. Really honored. I used to watch your videos so long ago, still watch your stuff, and I'm just glad you came on the show to hang out with me, man. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, buddy. I'm always happy to go on anyone's channels, so. Anywhere
Cool.
there's discussion, I'm there. Hopefully, as long as I'm not busy with school.
Cool. I'm going to link Charlie's channel down in the description. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, and share. This is what we love. Thank you for being in the chat. Really appreciate it. All you guys in the chat, regulars, loyal subs, thanks for showing up.
Sorry, I lost you again there for 2 seconds.
Just give you a shout out. So where people can find you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You guys can find me at Charlie and Westeros on YouTube, Charlie and Westeros on Instagram, Westeros Charlie on Twitter. And obviously, if you're here from my own channel, please give Mo a sub and check his videos out. I'm sure they're awesome. And I'm going to have to do that too now because I have been a horrible fellow YouTuber, GOT YouTuber, and I haven't checked out enough channels lately. So I will be checking Mo out. So thanks again for having me.
Totally, man. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out.